Once you become old, you are, I don't want to say as good as dead, but actually, you're as good as dead. Did you know that thousands of elderly women were haunted, tortured, and even murdered because they believed that they were witches? It's a horrifying reality. In Zanzibar and other African regions, being accused as a witch was not just mere or baseless accusations, it was a death sentence. And you know the most terrifying part? This isn't ancient history. This is something that happened in the 21st century, something that has been happening and something that may still happen. But how were these innocent women targeted, and how did a belief that started over so many years ago, that started centuries ago, continue to affect the lives of innocent elderly women till today? Stay with me as we unravel one of Africa's darkest secrets, the Zanzibar witch hunt.
6 weeks ago, in one evening, 5 women were put on trial here, accused of being witches.
Over the past few years, from 2005 to 2011, over 3,000 people have been killed in Tanzania, and before that, around 50,000 to 60,000 people have been killed between 1960 to 2000 because they were accused of witchcraft. And the worst is that most of these people, most of the victims were elderly people, actually elderly women. In 2014, just 2014 at the back here, 23 people were killed because they were accused of witchcraft, or they were killed because they were suspected of being witches. Out of those 23 people, 5 of them were over 60 and 2 of them were over 40. Not only that, in 2015, 425 deaths were recorded, and in the first 6 months of 2016, 394 deaths were recorded, or let me say 394 witchcraft related deaths were recorded in Tanzania. So you see that a lot of people were getting killed over being accused of being witches.
On the day of the killings, Shigela Said was out of the village. News reached him a mob had seized his wife Christine and 4 other women.
Witch hunt sounds like something from the medieval Europe, but in Tanzania it has become a terrifying reality. In some rural communities, something as simple as red eyes, something that could be developed over time from the effects of wood fires, smoke, and even age, is enough to accuse an elderly woman of being a witch. If a child fell ill, the blame will be on her. If the crops failed, the blame will be on her. If the animals did not produce enough youngs, the blame will be on her. Or if an unexpected death occurred, the blame will be on the nearest elderly woman. And once accused, there was no trial, no defense, only punishment.
A makeshift court decided the women had used witchcraft to cause the death of a 4-year-old child. The crowd then killed the women and burned their bodies.
Between 1990s and the 2010s, every year at least a minimum, or let's say an average, every year an average of 500 women were being killed because they were accused of witchcraft. They were beaten, they were stoned, they were macheted, they were hit, they were burned to death because they were accused of witchcraft. No trial, no defense, just punishment. The worst thing is that it's not only neighbors or strangers that accuse elderly women of being witches, but family members. I'm talking brothers, I'm talking sisters, I'm talking a mother accusing her daughter of being a witch.
Mchawi ni mtu mbaya anayepoteza maisha ya watu. Ndo jina nililoitwa hilo mimi, mchawi na mama.
I'm talking brothers trying to kill their sister because they believe she's a witch. If you ask me, this is more than crazy. To understand these modern witchcraft killings, we need to go back in time. So let's go back in time, because the fear of witches in Tanzania is not something new. It dates back hundreds of years, deeply rooted in traditional beliefs and colonial influences. Before the European colonization, many African tribes believed in spiritual forces. Healers and medicine men were respected but feared for their powers. So in the pre-colonial era, because there were no doctors like we have them in the modern world, there was no science basically, a lot of people believed in spiritual things, and everything that happened, if a child died, if the harvest was poor, if the cows were not producing enough milk, if the weather was cloudy, if anything happened that was out of the ordinary, if there was famine, it was believed that something must have happened. So these people would usually go to the witch doctors, go to the healers, and find out what was happening. Is it because they had sinned? Is it because someone had done something that they weren't supposed to do? Or was it someone that was causing this affliction on the members of the community? When the Germans and the British controlled Tanzania, they tried to discourage traditional beliefs but never eradicated them. The fear of witches and the fear of witchcraft still persisted in secret. So because these are beliefs that these people have had for years and years, for centuries, it's not easy to just come and change their beliefs. So even though the Germans and the British tried to discourage these traditional beliefs, they couldn't completely eradicate it, because you can't just eradicate things like that. Those things are myths and beliefs that are passed down from generations to generations via folklores, via those are like stories, via teachings, elders impacting traditions and whatever traditions and beliefs, cultural beliefs to the young ones. So those things are not things that are easily eradicated, especially when there is no education, when there is no exposure involved. Things like that will still continue to occur. After Tanzania gained independence in 1961, the belief in witchcraft still persisted, and a lot of people, especially in the rural areas, a lot of people still visited the witch doctors even after modern medicine had come. Even after modern medicine had come to be, a lot of people still went to the witch doctors to explain superstitions, to explain dreams, to explain things that were happening around them. You have to also understand that because it was the rural area, a lot of people still did not have the money, the required resources to go to modern doctors, to travel to the townships and seek modern doctors. So what was the next best thing? The next best thing was to go to the witch doctor and ask for explanations, or to go to the local healers and ask for help. Because if this thing had worked for them, if it had worked for their forefathers for several years, why wouldn't it work for them even now? As a result, when tragedy struck, when there was an illness, when there was famine, when there was one thing or the other, they always blamed the witches. And that meant that hundreds and thousands of people would die. And when I say hundreds and thousands of people would die, I mean mostly women. It was mostly women that were being accused of being witches, and mostly women that were being killed. Now you may be wondering, how did an innocent elderly woman become a suspect of witchcraft? Because normally when you say an elderly person, there should be empathy, there should be some kind of care, there should be some kind of concern. You should be wondering, is this person being catered for? Is there someone that is taking care of this person? Things like that. I feel like that should be the natural human process, because that's what I think. Anytime I see an elderly person, I always feel concerned, especially when this person is struggling with something, or you can see them bent to a certain angle. You know that this person is in pain. You always feel some kind of concern. So if this is a natural response, if this should be the average response, how do people go from that to accusing an elderly person of witchcraft and burning that person? In fact, let's not even go to the burning person, beating the person, stoning the person, using machete on the person, and then burning the person to death without care, without concern, without empathy. How did this happen? I'll tell you. The process is disturbingly simple. First, suspicion. Like I said, an elderly woman was often seen as a threat, especially if she's living alone. She was often seen as a threat. So if she has red eyes from cooking over the fire for several years, from inhaling the smoke, from just age and the weather, anything, she will be accused of being a witch, and that red eyes was seen as a sign of her witchcraft. Step 2, all it takes is suspicion. So an elderly woman is being suspected, oh, that woman has red eyes, she must be a witch. Then step 2, a tragic event. A tragic event occurs. Maybe a child falls ill, or a child has a nightmare, or a goat died while giving birth. That elderly woman that has red eyes must be the reason why this occurred.
Leah Kipemba was accused of witchcraft after all her children died.
So a tragic event has happened, and there was already suspicion previously. What is the next thing? Step 3, mob justice. Once accused, there was no escape. Once somebody has said this woman is a witch and she's responsible for that child's death, or she's responsible because rain did not fall yesterday, Or she's responsible because the cow died while giving birth. She'll be beaten to death, she'll be hacked to death, she'll be forced to flee her home, and even worse, she'll be burned to death as an example.
Benge says when her parents died, her brothers said she was to blame because she used witchcraft. One night, they broke into her home.
With no police intervention, most times these women's fates were sealed. Like a woman called Mama Asha. Mama Asha was dragged from her hut in the middle of the night just because a neighbor's child fell sick. The child didn't die. The child only fell sick, so she was dragged from her home in the middle of the night, and by morning, she was already burned to death. There's also the story of Josephat John, one of the victim's child, or should I even call him a victim himself, because he lost both his father and his mother to this jungle justice. He said he returned home one evening to see the body of his mother lying 10 meters away from the house, and on entering the house, he saw his father's body burned. Another horrifying story is the story of a 63-year-old Tanzanian woman, Ruth. Ruth was attacked in her house by 3 men who said their mother has sent them to come and kill her because their father died, and the mother believed that Ruth had killed their father so she could buy one land like that.
And when you started looking at them, what did they do? It must have been horrible, horrendous.
There are numerous stories. Some of these women and sometimes men were accused by parents, children, siblings, friends, neighbors. The list is endless.
Why would your mother accuse you of being a witch?
Marehemu baba pale amefariki akaacha mashamba eka kama 40 hivi. Ni kwamba nikatisha tamaa mimi nisidai haki ya wazazi.
In fact, whoever, once something happens and there's an elderly person close by who looks weather beaten by age and by the issues of life, they will just be accused of witchcraft and hacked to death. Now, in many countries, a lot of people pray that they will grow old. A lot of people pray that they would get to see 60, 70, 80, even 90. But in places like Tanzania, in these rural towns of Tanzania, people get scared of becoming old. Old age has almost become like a curse, because once you get old, anybody can turn on you. There are no family members here. There are no friends here. There are no neighbors here. There isn't somebody that has known you since you were a child here. Once you become old, you are, I don't want to say as good as dead, but actually, you're as good as dead. Now, the big question is, who spreads these accusations? Who points the fingers to these women? And why are these people not brought to justice? Why are these people not caught for spreading wrong rumors, for spreading wrong accusations? Here's the thing, in most cases, it wasn't just superstitions. In most cases, these accusations were linked to business. I'll explain. Some witch doctors or local leaders will accuse women of being witches to gain money or gain power. Some of these witch doctors and local leaders sold protective charms to those who were scared of witches, and others would go as far as falsely accusing, like receiving money from rivals to falsely accuse the other person of being a witch. So what I mean is, someone can pay a local leader money to accuse their rival of being a witch, so that whatever was the bone of contention will be resolved. Like maybe they were fighting over land, or they were fighting over a position or whatever. So when they pay the local leader some money to accuse their rival of being a witch, that person is just gone here by day, gone by night, because the person is killed. And once the person is killed, guess who becomes the chairman? Guess who becomes the chairlady? Guess who becomes the owner of the biggest land in the town? Even family members were not removed from this. A greedy son can accuse his mother of being a witch so he can inherit her land.
She believes she was denounced as a witch because some of her family wanted to frighten her off claiming her inheritance.
or a jealous neighbor who has been angry over something that occurred several years ago would just accuse their neighbor of being a witch so that they could settle old scores. It's like, okay, you think you have won, no problem. 5 years down the line, something happens in the community and then they'll be like, yeah, that woman is a witch. I hear her chanting in the night. One of the biggest reasons why people were also accused of witchcraft was because of land.
They think the only way to access that property, be it cows, be it farms, be whatever, is to claim that this lady is a witch, and in so doing, then it justifies for her death.
Now, in these rural areas, people that owned a big or a vast amount of land, they were often seen as wealthy people. They were also seen as people who had some kind of like a lot of influence, because money speaks, and it's not just in the urban area, because you have to understand that in these rural areas they farm a lot. So when you have a vast amount of land, you can farm, you can rear animals, and when you farm, you have a lot of produce, and when you have a lot of produce, you can sell, and when you can sell, you have money. So these people were seen as targets from jealous family members, jealous neighbors. Anyone that was just jealous would just find a way to accuse them of being witches.
He thinks saying someone's a witch is often about scaring them into giving up land, and that one of God River's brothers, who's now dead, was behind what happened to her.
So here's the thing, in Tanzania, girls are allowed to live out the remainder of their days on their husband's property before it is now transferred to the male relatives. Some women are even killed by their children. They're supposed to leave the inheritance to their offspring. But these women, I don't know if I will say they are blessed by old age, or should I say they are cursed by old age, because these women now become a threat to their children because they refuse to die. So when they live long, or live longer than the children anticipated that they would have lived, these children wake up and accuse their parents or their mother of being witches so that they can kill them and inherit the land, inherit the house, or whatever property they want to inherit. Some Tanzanians even said that even though they themselves do not believe in witchcraft, they remember that when they were young, they were often told to avoid some family members or some people in the society because those people were seen as witches. So they will often tell them, don't relate with this auntie, she's a witch, or don't relate with this uncle, he's a witch. Even though those people were part of their family, and as in part of their family, like as close as brothers and sisters of their parents, and even though those people were neighbors living very close to their own houses. These elderly women aren't the only ones terrified of their lives. They aren't the only ones terrified of living. Albinos in Tanzania are also haunted like prize animals. Witch doctors believe that the body parts of someone who has albinism can bring fortune and wealth. So the body parts of an albino person can bring in as much as $600, and the complete body, that's the complete body of a diseased albino man or male or female, can bring in as much as $75,000. A lot of money. So what happens is that when the people in the village or in the town see the dead body or the body parts of an albino individual, they feel like, oh, a witch has done this. A witch has used this individual for ritual. What they now do is that they go to a witch doctor to find out who is the witch among us, who must have used this albino for ritual. That witch doctor may now say, oh, for me to find out who used this albino for ritual and to exterminate the witch from our midst, you have to bring me an albino hand or an albino leg or an albino head. Guess what? They go, kill another albino, bring the head to the witch doctor. The witch doctor now says, is that elderly woman that is living by that corner there? That is the person that is responsible for the death of albino A. But guess what? They have killed albino B to find out who killed albino A. Then people now say, wow, there's the dead body of albino B. Who killed albino B? Then they now go to the witch doctor again to go and find out who murdered albino B. And the witch doctor goes again and says, you know what? To find out who killed this person, you have to bring me the legs of an albino lady, and then guess what, they go and kill another albino. So it becomes like it has become like a vicious circle, and the person or the people who are paying for this, who have been paying for this vicious circle all the while, has been these elderly Tanzanian women. Sad, right? Very sad. For decades, the government have been ignoring these killings, but in 2029, something changed. Human rights exposed these killings on a global scale, and the world became aware that something like this, something as wicked as this, was occurring in Tanzania. And so this made the government become involved, and they started trying to find out, like, why is this thing happening? Who are these people perpetrating this evil? And even trying to persecute one or two people who were present when these murders occurred. Shelters were built for women who were accused, and campaigns began teaching villagers to believe in science and not superstition. But sadly, despite all this that have been done, despite the government trying to crack down on those people who have murdered innocent men and women for false killings and accusations, these killings, these accusations still continue till today. So despite the fact that younger generations are beginning to believe that these things hold no water, that these things are just mere accusations, the beliefs in witchcraft still remain strong in some areas. Yes, change is happening, but change is happening slowly. So will we say there is hope? There is hope, but women still continue to live in fear, and new cases continue to arise. A lot of people are scared of living to old age, and even some of the women who were beaten and macheted but managed to escape still live in fear that someday someone will still come to complete the job that they had started. So I don't know, but I believe that you agree with me that the lives these women are living in the rural areas of Tanzania is a horrible and a very sad one. So what do you think about these witch hunts? Have you heard this story before? I would say that the first time I heard about these Zanzibar witch hunts, it was unbelievable to me, especially because I found out that parents were even killing their children because they wanted to take over their inheritance. It was crazy, and their siblings even could even go as far as trying to kill their own siblings. It was unbelievable to me. Have you heard about these Zanzibar witch hunts before? What do you think should be done to stop these witch hunts? Because believe me, hearing about what's happening in Tanzania, the witch hunts in Tanzania, because it's a common occurrence, but believe me, it's happening in other African countries. So how do we stop these witch hunts in Africa? How do we get people to be educated? How do we bring these witch hunts to an end? Because it's crazy. Yes, there may be some people that may be actual witches, but a lot of innocent lives have been lost to these false accusations, and for that reason only, this jungle justice must end. So guys, we've come to the end of this video. We've come to the end of this story about the Zanzibar witch hunt. But if you think that this story is crazy, if you find this story unbelievable, then I think you should watch the video I did on the Shakahola massacre. It is absolutely unbelievable. You'll be, in fact, just watch it first. Watch it, then come back to this video and tell me what you think about it. It is absolutely crazy. Absolutely what? Crazy. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to find out the next time I do my next deep dive. Until next time, keep living as your most authentic self. Mwah.